I am here, NFL Mike, with Joe Morley and Tony Tucker, the MJT Football YouTube channel. And we got to talk about this, guys, because this Chiefs-Vikings game had an interesting finish, and it's back-to-back weeks now with some controversy at the end of a Kansas City Chiefs game. And I have a whole video dropping on TikTok. I don't know if it's come out yet by the time that this video releases. And I went through and found like 10 instances where the Chiefs kind of got beneficial calls from the refs. So we could talk about that too. But let's talk about this one first, Joe and Tony. And by the way, the Chiefs did lead this entire game. But the situation that was at hand here, the Vikings had the ball down by 7. The final score was 27-20. And they were going in with a chance to tie the game, maybe go for 2 late in the game if they really were feeling risky and wanted to try and win the game. And that's when this play takes place. I have the clip pulled up here. We could play it a few times, but this was called pass interference. And then the referees got together and picked up the call and decided to no longer call it pass interference. And then, of course, L'Jarius Sneed took his helmet off, which is its own topic to talk about. But you could see the ref has clear vision here. He sees that L'Jarius Sneed is impeding Jordan Addison's path to try and get back to the football. It is one of those like weird situations with the underthrown pass becoming pass interference. But Tony, what was your thoughts on this ending to this game? Obviously, the Vikings really needed this win, and we're going to talk about that more as well. The Chiefs really needed it too, but not quite as much as Minnesota. Is this pass interference, Tony?
If they call it pass interference, Mike, then it should have stayed a pass interference. There's no reason why it's not a pass interference because he is like engaged with him. And I was telling you off the air that I think that the ref was actually throwing a makeup call because on the play before this, Sneed is actually shoving Jordan Addison out of bounds. They ran like the same little like fade play twice in a row, which is a whole nother can of worms that we could get into, like real imaginative right there. I mean, you run the reverse fake punt, which I was like, holy shit, Kevin O'Connell's a genius. And then you run this play twice in a row to an undersized guy in the corner. But if you're going to throw the flag, all I'm asking for is just a little bit of consistency because the week before, Sauce Gardner gets a flag for doing something similar to this that extends a Chief drive, but then on this, it doesn't. Like, again, this is probably meaningless on the outcome because the Vikings get the ball at the 1 and Cam Akers fumbles or a bad snap to Kirk Cousins and the Vikings lose the game. That's fine. But I'm just saying, like, it's frustrating as a fan who actually, Chiefs fans, if you're watching this and you think like, oh, he's just a Charger hater, the Chiefs are really good. I think they're one of the best teams in the league. You guys have the most underrated defense. I have Mahomes at number 5 in my MVP rankings, even though he's not played amazing this year. Like, blah, blah, blah. Chiefs are fucking fantastic. But as a fan, like, just please call it consistently. And when there's back-to-back PIs potentially on the play, like, just throw the flag and leave it there. I get the helmet off thing had no bearing on the play. It was after the play. But even that, you have the official going, what are you doing, man? Put your helmet on. Like, he's even helping him out and telling him, like, you can't take your helmet off. Like, it's just frustrating as a fan to be like, wait, again, the Chiefs get another break going their way. They don't need breaks. They already got a break when the Bears passed on Patrick Mahomes for Mitch Trubisky. That was the biggest break. They don't need any more breaks.
That was a pretty big break. We'll say that for sure. A huge break. But Joe, what was your reaction when you saw this play? Is this pass interference to you?
It is pass interference. But then again, I don't know what the hell pass interference is anymore in the NFL because there's so many calls that you go, that's pass interference, and then they don't call anything. Then you're like, what the hell was that? You called that crap? But the Kansas City Chiefs, we've been talking about this not just this year, not last year, the year before that. We've been talking about this for a while. NFL needs to just get the referees some red and yellow shirts, get rid of the black zebra shirts, and just get them the Chiefs shirt. Go ahead and put the damn logo on because we know who they're working for. Like we used to say it about the Patriots. This is crazy how top teams get calls. I mean, watching the Niner game, I thought the Niners got away with a couple things this weekend, but the Kansas City Chiefs, the false starts and not only PIs, but the false starts, like, come on, they're false fucking starts. We all know what it is. We all see them jump, and I understand why you're allowing them to do it, but the rules are Them are the rules, Tony. Them the rules, and you got to call it as it is. You see on this replay right here, he clearly impedes the pass catcher from catching the ball. There was no, it was catchable, so he would have been able to catch it. If you get in the way of it, I think there was another one this weekend. I forget who it was. He slowed down, and quarterbacks try to throw it short now, so the receiver has to come back to the ball, and both of them will stop, and the receiver will come back, and the quarterback will try to get it on that back shoulder, and they haven't been calling those this year. Like it's I don't understand what's going on. But when you throw the flag, there's a penalty. You saw something. You saw the penalty. Why? I don't understand. I thought only the Raiders were the team that the NFL referees will pick it up and say, we didn't see a penalty after that. We threw a flag, but we didn't see nothing. It just accidentally fell out of our pocket. This right here is ridiculous, and the Chiefs have benefited from it 2 weeks in a row.
So, Mike, I need to jump back in real quick because I forgot to say this. 5:38 in the third quarter, Harrison Smith gets called for PI. And if anybody wants to go back and watch it, Harrison Smith, it's an underthrown ball. He doesn't get his head around, and MVS does the smart thing. He tries to reach through him when he realizes he can't catch it and pulls Harrison Smith down on top of him, and they throw a flag. Fine, that's PI. But the same thing is happening here without the veteran. Like, we have a rookie who doesn't just pull Snead towards him to make it look more egregious. But they're basically the same play where it's like, come on, man. Like, one of them looks worse because Harrison Smith falls down on top of him in coverage. It's just like a little bit of consistency in this. That's all I want. Well,
in the Detroit game, in the Detroit-Carolina game, Adam Thielen was getting held all damn game. And you know what the announcer said? Oh, he doesn't sell it enough. Why should an NFL receiver have to sell it? If there's a penalty, throw the damn flag. If you see it, why does he have to? Because the athlete, and this is what I was thinking, the athlete in somebody is not going to be like, oh, he's holding me. No, he wants to still go score the touchdown, even with the guy grabbing him and holding him. He wants to do it. He's not going to slow up and be like, oh, he's grabbing me.
Yeah.
Why? He's going to finish the play. Why do you have to sell it to get the flag? I don't understand. And then we're gonna talk crap and be like, oh, he sold that. Like, it's just like when the offensive lineman flops because the defensive lineman barely touches him. He's like, oh, and we laugh at that. Why do we have to have an NFL wide receiver sell it?
It worked. It worked too. Zach Tom felt a little finger on his back and just hit the deck on Monday Night Football. But yeah, and that's something that receivers are coached to do as well. Like, coaches understand that the refs are going to miss these calls. This is clear PI. He was grabbing underneath his shoulder pads as the ball is coming, the ball's in the air at this point and coming probably down, towards Jordan Addison. And when he's grabbing him like this and has, Snead, this is why you're not allowed to just completely turn your back and not play the ball at all. Snead's blocking his vision. I don't even think Addison knows where the ball is at this point. He probably seen that the ball is thrown to him, but with this guy all over him like this, there's no way you can even see where the football is. It's like that's where, like, you kind of throw out the window here. Oh, he didn't fight back towards the ball. Well, the pass interference didn't even allow him to see the ball. So how could he be fighting for a ball that he can't even see? I don't know. And I do feel like, Addison could have fought for the ball more. But like you're saying, Joe, a penalty is a penalty, and they got to call it. And we're talking about a pass interference or a holding or a false start. How about helmet to helmet when Rashard Higgins dived at that goal line to try and keep the Browns in that playoff game a few years ago? And I think it was Daniel Sorensen. Just straight led with the crown of the helmet. Didn't even try to keep his head up, and they didn't call the penalty. I think they actually got a fumble into the end zone for a touchback to be the Chiefs' possession instead of a touchdown for the Browns. Or how about the do-over play in the AFC Championship game where the ref said there was a clock malfunction and they blew the play dead after the snap? Like, figure out the clock malfunction after the play, after the Bengals had gotten the stop. The offense and the defenses had switched, like special teams were coming out. And that's when they decided to make the call that they get a second chance at the third down. And of course, they're going to pick it up every time.
They killed the Super Bowl with the pass interference call.
That's what I was about to get to.
They killed the Super Bowl. Like, a good game going down to the end. We could have had Jalen Hurts with the ball with 2 minutes left, and they called the pass interference. But then they call this crap and pick up the flag. Why didn't you pick up the flag in the Super Bowl? Oh, because it was the Kansas City Chiefs, right? That benefited from it. Like,
yeah, and what I tell Chiefs fans, Joe, is not even just the opportunity for Jalen Hurts to respond. and give us an exciting finish. Jalen Hurts responds, there's 30 seconds left on the clock, and now we get Mahomes back on the field with 30 seconds left in the Super Bowl. I mean, how exciting is that versus holding, all right, let's run the clock out and kick the field goal. And that was one of the more exciting Super Bowls, slippery field or not, that we've seen.
We need to go to a referee in the booth. That's what it means. That's all it's down to, is just get one guy in the booth at every damn game that's calling every play, and every play is reviewable. He just makes the call.
Do you guys remember? Do you remember that one play in that same AFC Championship where they had the do-over play where they called intentional grounding on Joe Burrow, even though he threw it like straight at his running back's feet? Just over and over and over again. I mean, we could do it all. We could sit here all day and talk about it. It's becoming a real issue.
I just want the play. I just want the calls to be right. And I want them to be even for every damn team. And I'm a Raider fan, so trust me, I see a lot of things that I'm like, what the hell? We don't get the benefit of it, but if we did it, they would throw a flag right away. You think they would have picked that flag up for the Raiders? You think they would have said no, they would have kept that PI. They would have put especially if they're playing the Chiefs, they would have put them on the 1 yard line and said, there you go, win the game.
That's what I was going to talk about next before we move on here to talk about the Vikings, because they're in their own situation at this very moment in time. But I was going to ask, we've talked about it with the NBA, and we've seen it in the NBA. It's pretty obvious in the NBA, superstars get the benefit of the doubt in certain situations. Are we seeing that in the NFL? Is Patrick Mahomes going to get the benefit of the doubt, or the Chiefs defense, just because, Pat Mahomes on the team? Is, the Eagles going to get the benefit of the doubt on a close call, maybe on a QB sneak or something? Like, are the superstars or the teams that the narrative or the NFL wants to see succeed going to get a beneficial call like that?
Well, so put Justin Jefferson in that spot, Tony. Let's just do that. If that was Justin Jefferson instead of Jordan Addison, do they keep that call?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't think that it necessarily matters that it's a player. I think it's more of a team-based narrative. And I was telling Mike about this, that Eric Mangini was saying yesterday that when the Patriots were rolling, the calls seem to benefit them more often. And what happens is like, when you get calls that are beneficial to good teams, they make you pay for it. Like, it's not like, like beneficial calls happen for a lot of teams, but a lot of teams don't have the ability to then go and capitalize on the mistakes. If you give great teams one more chance, they're going to find ways to win the game. So like, officiating is extremely hard. And I've told everybody this multiple times. I used to ref little league sports, and it was difficult. I cannot imagine trying to officiate the biggest, strongest, fastest athletes on the planet and try and make it fair. I get a little confused sometimes about if they wouldn't have thrown a flag, I wouldn't even have said we should talk about this. But it's the fact that the flag was thrown and then they were like, no, we're going to pick it up. If the flag was thrown, you saw something there, but now all of a sudden it's not, like it didn't happen. That's the part that bothers me, is like, don't call the PI then. Just say, hey, we're just letting the boys compete. Good. Go ahead. Let them compete. But you threw it and then you picked it up.
And usually when they pick up a flag like that, it's like a misunderstanding situation. Like, for some reason, the ref just didn't either completely understand the rule or just the situation at hand that they're looking at, and they needed to conversate with the other refs to come to a decision on what the ruling should be based off the playbook. Maybe there's a little bit of confusion there. It's not usually like, was it PR, was it not? You saw the ref in the replay clip. He's 5 yards away from the play with his eyes locked on it. He's clearly looking at it and seeing the tug on the inside on Addison, and that's why he threw the flag. That's what triggered him to throw the flag, is because of the hands. Because Jerry Sneed, it wasn't like egregious. He didn't like tackle him or anything, but you could tell Sneed was worried that if Kirk Cousins places this ball, deeper into the end zone, it's going to go over his head. So he grabbed onto Addison.
And that's all. That is like the whole point of this conversation, is not the fact of whether or not this was PI, because, like, again, I would have been perfectly fine with this play if it was not called pass interference. The point was that an official threw a flag. Like, it was on the field. They weren't getting together and talking about it. It was out of his pocket or his belt loop, and it was on the field. And then they were like, after further discussion, we've talked to Roger Goodell, and we are not allowed to penalize the Chiefs, to penalize the Chiefs in the spot. So we're going to go ahead and pick it up. Like, that's not That's the part that I'm not good with.
Maybe it was a rewrite in the script, Tony. Maybe the Vikings were going to win. He threw the flag just like he was supposed to, and then they called them and they said, "Hey, we're going with the rewrite. We're changing the ending of this one. We didn't like it. The director didn't like it."
Vince McMahon did, Joe. Are you watching that wrestlers documentary, Joe, that came out on Netflix? I know Tony's not really that into wrestling.
No, but I don't have time for kid stuff.
Anyways, moral of the story. I was trying to.
What were you trying to do?
Anyways, they script everything in wrestling, obviously, is what I'm trying to get to here. And it's a documentary on like an independent scene wrestling company. That part's not important. But they show the behind the scenes parts. Like the first time ever in a wrestling documentary. I mean, we've seen it before, but not like on this level. Like literally them changing the script, changing the story mid-match. And like the producer in the back has to send someone out to interfere in the match so he can get the message out there, or has to talk to the commentary team to try and talk to the wrestlers. Like, we need to change the script here. That's what's happening here, Joe. Is that what you're saying? The rest got together and they got to call in on the earpiece?
I'm not saying that it is happening, but I'm not saying that it's not happening. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, the Vikings did lose the game. They can't take it back, no matter what the refs did here on the call. And we were going to talk about the Kelsey injury, but right before the video started, some news came out that Kelsey is expected to practice in full today and be good to go for Thursday Night Football. So Chiefs fans, don't worry about Kelsey, I guess. We'll see what happens there with the foot injury. The Vikings have some very big injury news that dropped today. Justin Jefferson, hammy pull. I think they're still evaluating exactly how long he's going to miss, but they've already put him on IR. So Justin Jefferson is set to miss the next 4 weeks of football no matter what. The Vikings offense just lost the best wide receiver in football. And what should scare the Vikings is they're 1-4. Their defense has been playing awful. I mean, Justin Jefferson has been kind of carrying this team. He's gotten 28% of the team's targets. That's almost 1/3 of the passing offense. And their rushing attack is one of the worst in the NFL. Now, we know Jordan Addison's fantasy value spikes to the moon. KJ Osborne may even be a sneaky pickup now because we know what he can do when he gets more opportunities. But this is not good for the Vikings. Reaction, Joe, to the Justin Jefferson news.
Get rid of the Madden curse. There's a new curse. It's the #1 fantasy overall pick curse that's happening now. If you're the top guy in fantasy football, you don't want to be picked #1 overall. You don't want to be that no more. Get rid of the Madden curse. It's the fantasy football #1 overall draft pick curse that's happening. I think this is horrible, but I think it's horrible to see star players go down. I don't like it. But what I do like about this whole situation and what we've been seeing from NFL teams now is they're actually treating hamstring injuries correctly. Hey, done. He's out for 4 weeks. Let it heal, because what have we seen in the past? Oh, he has a hamstring injury. He's going to try to work it out, and then he re-injures it, and he's out the rest of the season. So go out there, sit for for 4 weeks, let it actually heal, and then try to come back. That way it's not lingering. So that's the one good thing that we are seeing this season from hamstring injuries. But come on, man, this is Justin Jefferson. This is he's not the greatest, because not the best right now, because Devontae Adams is still in the league last time I checked. So, but he's right there, #2, the guy who everybody, all the kids tune in, right? We have the Swifties that tune in for Travis Kelce now. We have all the Fortnite players that tune in for Justin Jefferson. And it's just, I hate seeing star players leave. But maybe this is a good thing for the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins, where he can start finding his other receivers and start getting that offense going. I don't know. Here's Tony going to talk about it, even though Tony loves Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Joe, I have the schedule in the background. We're going to pull it up and talk about like what chances the Vikings have now for the rest of the season. But Tony, go ahead, because the fallout of this is going to be franchise impacting, in my opinion, in a way, because they got to figure out what direction they're going to go in the long term.
Oh, I got the direction. Caleb Williams, go ahead and ink yourself a deal with LL Bean or North Face jackets. And what I would do is I would not stop calling the Vikings until they were like, Kirk Cousins for a 3rd-round pick. And Joe Douglas is like, no, we were good with Zach Wilson. Kirk Cousins for a 4th-round pick, whatever it is. Because the problem before, you're trying to sign Justin Jefferson, and it's a tough sell to him to say, hey, I know you want to put up numbers and stats and all this stuff, so we can't trade away Kirk Cousins. Well, now he's on the shelf for 4 weeks, potentially longer. And you just say like, hey, this season is shot, but we need to look forward. So we're going to start Nick Mullins, and we are going to ship Kirk Cousins out of here to really like any team that thinks that they could have an upgrade for Kirk Cousins. Potentially the Atlanta Falcons, even though Desmond Ridder played great. Right there, the Las Vegas Raiders. You think that Kirk Cousins could be an upgrade? We know that he can. I don't know about Raiders fans, but Kirk Cousins could be an upgrade there. I'm sending him to wherever I can send him. We're going to punt on the rest of the season. Like, the Vikings have some players. Cam Bynum had some nice bright spots for them at safety. Martellus, who's like this safety linebacker hybrid, is making plays every single week. There is a great play where he's in the A gap on Patrick Holmes looks like he's going to blitz, and then he's in deep coverage down the field, like after the ball snaps. Like, that's the kind of stuff that we used to see with like Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed. He's going to be a good player for that team. They have bright spots on the offense, but they're not going to win. They're out of the division, essentially. Like, the Lions are running away with that. So trade Kirk Cousins right now, because Justin Jefferson, the guy that you're worried about keeping happy, is going to be out until, what, November? So by the time he gets back, there's nothing to play for. Trade him, and you find a way to get into the Caleb Williams sweepstakes.
I think that Caleb Williams on this team and this offense with these receivers and Kevin O'Connell's creativity, electric. Yes. Year one, immediately, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I like the sound of that. That keeps them away from the Raiders. That keeps them in the NFC. Another important factor for me when it comes to where Caleb Williams ends up and the future quarterbacks in the NFL end up. Yeah, but I was going to ask about the trades afterwards because I have this pulled up here. Let's just look real quick at the Vikings schedule here, and then we'll wrap this one up. From here on out, they're 1-4. Just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to Chicago next week. Win or loss? What do you think, Joe?
Loss.
Tony?
Chicago.
In Chicago.
I'm probably gonna.
You saw what the Bears did, Tony.
I don't care.
It's not more of the Bears. I think it's more of the Vikings.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't decided, but it's a coin toss.
You know what? Put it as a win. I'm going with the win. I'll go with the win.
Let's say it's a win. Let's say it's a win. Okay, so they're 2-4 at that point. San Francisco, loss. 2-5. Green Bay, 50-50?
Yeah, another coin toss game.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they're 3-4 at this point without Justin Jefferson, and then they have to play Atlanta in Atlanta. I think that without Justin Jefferson, they probably would lose that game. I don't know how they're going to slow down Bijan Robinson.
Well, here's what I'm thinking about the Vikings, Mike, when I'm looking at it and who they're playing, is their defense hasn't been that great, but they're blitzing defense, right? They blitz out of these guys. And if you're going to blitz Justin Fields, you're going to blitz Jordan Love, and you're going to blitz Ridder, I think you have a really good chance at those three making really bad mistakes and your team getting the W right there.
Well, I mean, if the Falcons are smart and they blitz him, all you got to do is just swing that thing to Bijan. He's got a one-on-one in all those situations, and I'm taking him in 3-on-1 situations this year.
Let's just say a kind of a overarching look at the schedule. With the defense they have, there's potentially 6 more wins on the schedule, right? Like maybe 8 if everything went the way it went.
We give them all of the 50-50s. Yeah, 8 wins.
We give them all of the games where it's like all the one-score games that they are in, they start winning them like they did last year. It's a 9-win team, barely making the playoffs. On the other hand, you go the opposite route when the season's already headed that way, and you go, oh, we're getting our franchise quarterback next year, which was already your plan this year. Let's talk about a different schedule for the Jets. The Jets get the Eagles this week. It's going to be an L no matter what, most likely, unless that defense plays like the 85 Bears. Great news. Kirk Cousins comes there. He's on the sideline. He's getting acclimated, finding a place to set up the family for if that's what he decides to do. Then we get a bye week for them to really get the install in, get with him. Then what do they get coming off the bye? The New York Giants. That's a friendly first game. Then they get the Chargers on Monday Night Football. I love my boys, but that's potential for him to be on the same page with Garrett Wilson by week 3 in that offense. Then they get the Raiders The Jets could start stacking up some wins with this schedule. They have to play the Bills and Dolphins, but then they get Falcons, Texans. They have Commanders down the stretch. The Jets could still be a relative team with that defense in the AFC and be a 10-win team. And the Jets are playing for this year. The Vikings are not playing for this year. So move Kirk Cousins for whatever the Jets are willing to part with in this situation. Like, if Zach Wilson struggled against the Broncos defense last week, and I believed in Zach. I started him in fantasy, and it cost me a week. I literally could have started anybody else from the waiver wire. And when I went back and looked at it, I realized I didn't scroll down far enough. Joe Burrow was on the waiver wire, and I picked Zach Wilson over him. I only looked at the top 6. That's what I get for not doing my research.
So right now, if the season ended today, Minnesota would have the number 4 overall pick in the draft. So you're saying that they're going to have to drop. You want them to get the number 1 pick to get Caleb Williams. So if they made that trade, I'm not for teams tanking. But that's not truly tanking if you trade your quarterback and then go with somebody else, right? Like you're building up for next year. They're not going to go out there and actually lose games. They're still going to be competitive, but you're not going to be as competitive because you got Nick Mullins instead of Kirk Cousins. So they played Chicago, right, who has the number 1 pick right now. Chicago actually has number 1 and number 2 via Carolina and then themselves. And then number 3 right now would be the Denver Broncos. So they play those 2 teams to finish off this season. The Minnesota Vikings do. If losses to those teams and then a couple other things go their way, they could end up with that number 1 pick. But as of right now, Minnesota has the number 4 pick before going through their whole schedule, Mike.
Joe, your Nick Mullins screws up my plan, right? Because Nick Mullins is competitive enough for them to probably still win 4 to 5 games. They come out and go, hey, we've seen a lot of good things from Jaron Hall in practice, and we want to give the rookie a shot to come out here and see what he can do. We need to evaluate him against NFL talent. And then that's when we get the rookie from like BYU or wherever he is. And I've heard great things about him. He trained out here, and he's got some potential, dual threat, could do some things. That's when the Caleb Williams plan, the Drake May plan is on. Like they need
to go off topic. I think you guys are way off on the Caleb Williams shit. You already know what the script writers have. You already know who's going to get the number 1 overall pick. It's the New England Patriots.
That would be crazy too. But that would be less fun. I want to see Caleb Williams have some fun in the league.
Yeah, no, I don't. Patriots are really bad. They are, but I don't think they're as bad as they've been over the couple of weeks. Where they're going to end up ruining the career of like Michael Penix or Bo Nix. Like they'll ruin one of those careers.
Poor Bo Nix. Don't do it to Bo Nix, Tony. I'll tell you what, one person that will not be tanking for the Vikings this year is Brian Flores. If they ask him to tank, he's going to sue their asses. Do not ask Brian Flores to tank. If you're in the Vikings management and you're watching this video right now, you will be sued. Fair warning.
It's not that none of these players or coaches are tanking, but it's like what Kwesi, the GM for the Vikings said, we're in a competitive rebuild. That's what he called it at the beginning of the year. To be competitive for a rebuild, it might be good to start looking at the future of the part of the rebuild. Like that's all I'm saying is that if you can get an asset for Kirk Cousins next year, that's not tanking.
Yeah, and he would be successful if he gets an asset of any type within the first 5 rounds of the draft and gets the quarterback of the future out of it. That would be successfully, competitively rebuilding. Made the playoffs last year, won the division last year, competitive in games this year while they were healthy. And then you set yourself up to where, depending on how well the rookie quarterback plays immediately in this offense with these weapons that can actually carry him a little bit, depending on how much they can improve the O-line and improve the run game, they could be back in the mix again next season in the NFC with how weak it is. So it would be a successful, competitive rebuild if they made all of this happen that we're talking about today.
It's not just Kirk Cousins that you can trade right now. Hunter, right? You could send him somewhere.
Harrison Smith as well is someone that probably has enough value to where you can get a draft pick for him at this point.
Yeah, and Danielle Hunter and Harrison Smith in a package deal would look great in powder blue.
That would be perfect.
Eric Kendricks is already there. Come on over, boys.
Well, and that's the crazy thing. A couple of years ago, we would never talk about the NFL trade deadline. Like the trade deadline in the NFL was nothing. It was like, oh, it passed. What was that? Now teams actually care about the trade deadline and they actually make in-season moves, which is amazing. So, yeah, we could see some of these guys moving.
We're in the entertainment business, boys. All right, I'm gonna wrap us up there at that on this conversation. Chiefs get bailed out by the refs again. Vikings are going down a path uncharted in the recent years of injuries and struggles and are competitively rebuilding. Let us know your reaction to both in the comments. Help us out by sharing this video with Vikings, Chiefs, and just NFL fans that you think will be interested in this conversation. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're three best friends. Love talking football. Always looking for a fourth. You could be that fourth. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. Anything else, Joe, Tony, before I hit the button?
Yeah, we'll just end it with this. F them Chiefs.
F them Chiefs, yeah. Stop rigging these games, NFL.
You nailed the ending for once, Mike. Way to go.
I didn't.
And then you did that. And then you did that.
I did it.
And
I did
then
it.
you did that.
Right.